That's been in there, I think, 2 years ago. But with that, but
We're hearing tonight a warning from one of the several hundred FAA employees who was just fired. I'm I'm scared to death, and the American public should be scared too, is what we're hearing from Charlie Statlander, who says he was working on an urgent FAA defense program in Hawaii to detect incoming cruise missiles. He thought his job would be spared because it focused on national security. But on Friday, along with hundreds of other FAA probationary employees, he was fired. And Charlie joins me now. And thank you for being here. It's great to have you because obviously this warning, you say that the American public should be scared by your firing and the hundreds of your FAA colleagues as well. Why is that?
Hey, Caitlin, thank you so much for having me on tonight. And, thank you for giving me the platform to tell my story. I wish I was here under different circumstances, but alas, here we are. So I do think the American public does need to be concerned about, not only my firing, but also the firing of so many public safety, national security professionals at the FAA and, within the Department of Transportation, but, writ large also throughout the federal government. And I gave that quote about being scared to death because while I can't talk about the specifics of the project I worked on and what all I was doing, what I can tell you is that the FAA National Defense Program that I was a part of and was incredibly proud to work for the mission, to accomplish the mission of, has an incredibly important national security role. And I was working on incredibly important national security work. And by being summarily fired without any warning, actually while I was in the process of working, I think that is detrimental to national security.
You were at work when you got fired?
I had actually just returned from a work trip, a briefing at one of our Air Force bases, and I was working late into the night, which again is, I think, further evidence. I'm just one of hundreds of thousands of federal employees who work way more than 40 hours a week, and it goes to show that the rumors that are being spread by the administration and DOJ that federal workers are just leeches on the government are incorrect. But with that said, I had just returned home from a briefing, a work trip. I had another one scheduled actually for today, and I was working late into the night after I had returned home to get my notes and my thoughts down so that I could prepare them to share with, my boss and other folks in my branch before I actually went to my briefing this week.
Well, and Charlie, I just wonder what you say about this, given you talk about this defense radar system that you're working on. I know you can't go into the details of that, but the White House defended these cuts by saying no air traffic controllers nor any professionals who perform safety critical functions were terminated. Is that accurate from what you know?
So again, I was in the FAA National Defense Program, so I don't really have any knowledge on the air traffic controller side of that. But I can tell you that the second part of that regarding public safety or critical public safety, from my perspective and the work I was doing is a flat out false statement.
Charlie Statlander, I know that this obviously came as a shock to you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your experience. It's good to hear from someone who actually went through this instead of just looking at the numbers, to actually hear from a person who was affected by this. Thank you for sharing that with me tonight.
Hey, thank you so much, Caitlin.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture is now working to rescind termination letters sent to employees working on bird flu response. Those workers were among the scores of firings at multiple federal agencies, including the U.S. Forest Service. Joining us now is Amanda Mae Downey. Amanda, thank you for coming on. So you worked for the Forest Service. Did you ever think you'd be in this position? You would be on the chopping block?
So as a probationary employee, there's always that risk, right? But I worked hard and I did my job, and I did not think that this would be something that would happen to someone who goes in under these conditions and proves themselves and works really hard. And that's been a real gut punch for me.
I imagine it has been. And from what I read, you have a family that you're trying to support. Tell us about the process of termination, what that was like for you. Are you still getting paid? When does your pay end?
Yeah, so I received a text message from my supervisor asking if I had a minute to talk. I was actually busy helping my daughter move unexpectedly in Grand Rapids from her college apartment. And then he called and left a voicemail. I was still busy. I missed it. I did call him back. He said that I needed to come in and speak to him before, I believe it was close of business on Monday, that we had to wrap it up over the weekend. And so, as directed by my union, I sent a message just clarifying that I was going to receive premium pay as a callback to be called in on a holiday. He did respond and confirm that I would be. And so then I went in on Monday to receive my termination letter from OPM, which I believe you guys have a copy of, and was able to pack up my stuff. I had to turn over my accountable property to another employee. I was there for about 3 hours, I think.
So we're showing it here on the screen. You say received and accepted under duress. Why was it important to you to add that line?
It was really important to me because there are so many policies under concern that we don't believe are being followed as employees, and we are, looking to our union for guidance on those things. And the possibility that it sounds like with this being such a sheer volume of employees that this is a RIF, and there are policies that have to be followed if we are under a RIF, and you can't just come in and sweep out all the worker bees because that's the easiest thing to do.
So, and going back, and I apologize if I missed this, but I'm just curious, what is the package like for you? Are you given pay through a certain time period? Is your pay cut off immediately? I just want to better understand that.
Yeah, so I apologize. I was so focused on the prior question. Okay. So there was a lot of concern over the weekend. So FEMI, the national account from where all of our paychecks come from, we were aware there was going to be some maintenance as government purchase card holders, but there was never any mention about our paychecks. And all of our paychecks, most of us, it gets deposited on, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, and it was pending all weekend. Some people said it showed up and then disappeared. I will say that my check did deposit and finalize today, so I am glad for that. I should have one more paycheck coming to me from this last week for the pay period, and I have been told I will receive my annual leave, and if I had any credit hours built up, I would receive that. We do not receive our sick time that we have reserved.
So you worked for the Forest Service, which manages and maintains public forests and grasslands and is critical in wildlife protection. What is your biggest concern now that so many of the agency's workers are gone? What do you think the impact will be? Do you think people will feel this?
Definitely. I think it's going to be a tremendous impact. First it's going to hit us and our families and our amazing coworkers, and that's going to impact our communities. It's going to have a ripple effect. Eventually, you will see that our natural resources and our beautiful public lands will not have the same standard of care, and that's going to affect tourism and our economy. I have lived and worked and played in this community my entire life and chose to stay here, and I genuinely believe in that. And to see the impact that this is going to have, knowing that my community depends so strongly on our tourism, is just heartbreaking.
Just to be clear, I know we have to go, but did you get any reviews that you weren't performing the way that you should have been or anything like that?
I received a merit-based pay increase this fall, which if you're an unsatisfactory employee, you would not receive that.
Amanda Mae Downey, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
For us tonight.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
You are looking at secretly recorded video of Russell Vought, a former cabinet member in the Trump administration.
This year has been predominantly now getting ready for a year 5 of a Trump administration. We have about 350 different documents that regulations and things of that nature.
Vogt, the platform policy director for the Republican National Committee, says he is building the plan for Trump's second term.
I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25.
Trump publicly disavowed Project 2025, a conservative blueprint for his administration if he gets reelected. But in private, Vogt said that's just politics. The details of the real plans are secret and based on Trump's own beliefs.
Notwithstanding, I expect you to hear 10 more times from the rally the president, distancing himself from the left's boogeyman of Project 2025.
Yeah. And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it. And so I see what he's doing is just very, very conscious, distancing himself from a brand. He's very supportive of what we do, and know that we have all manner of things that we do that's, even unrelated to Project 2025.
Sure.
Vogt has been a mastermind behind expanding the powers of the presidency. Some of those policy proposals Trump has supported, two sources tell CNN. Trump even hosted a Mar-a-Lago fundraiser 2 years ago for the group Vogt founded, the right-wing Center for Renewing America.
He's been at our organization. He's raised money for our organization. He's blessed it.
In this hotel suite, Vogt thinks he's talking to family members of a wealthy donor. But one is a journalist, the other an actor, working undercover for the UK-based Center for Climate Reporting. The center provided the video to CNN on the condition we blur their faces so they can continue their undercover work. The conversation covers a host of issues, like abortion and how his position differs from Trump.
He talks about rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I don't actually believe in those exceptions. I want to get to abolition, but we got to win elections. And so I want to get as far as we possibly can.
His view of who should be an American.
So I want to make sure that we can say we're a Christian nation. And my viewpoint is mostly that I would probably be Christian nationism. That's pretty close to Christian nationalism. If we're going to have legal immigration, can we get people that actually believe in Christianity? Is that something? Or do we have to have, are we not allowed to ask questions about Sharia law?
What could we see America looking like, I guess,
in
an ideal world?
In an ideal world, I think we could save the country in a sense of, the largest deportation in history.
And even pornography.
We'd have a national ban on pornography if we could, right?
But the most striking of Vogt's statements has to do with presidential power.
George Floyd obviously was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration. Right. It's the left's belief that structures in society are the problem. Pulling society down for purposes of revolution is exactly what they want. And what you're seeing on college campuses is a part of that as well. The president has, the ability both along the border and elsewhere to maintain law and order with the military.
A major part of Vogt's plan is turning thousands of career federal jobs into political appointments, meaning workers could be fired if they're not sufficiently loyal to Trump.
80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. I want to be the person that crushes the deep state. I think there's a lot of different ways to do that. It is defunding it, it's impoundment, the ability to not spend money, it's getting rid of their independence.
Even as Vogt talks about the so-called deep state, he claims his group is forming its own to take over on day one.
We are trying to create a shadow Office of Management and Budget, a shadow National Security Council, and a shadow Office of Legal Counsel. These are the main organs in government that you need outside to create the battle plan.
And you're not going to publish those?
No.
They go straight to...
Yeah, they're very, very close hold.
Wow, Kyung. Have Vogt or Donald Trump responded to all that was said on this hidden video?
Well, we are, Sarah, beginning to hear from both the Trump campaign and Russell Vogt's organization in response to this video. A spokesperson.
Let's talk about Project 2025. This is the conservative policy blueprint. You disavowed it during the campaign. You called it a product of the radical right. You've said some of their ideas were abysmal.
I said some of it is. Some of it is very good. Some of it's very mainstream, actually. Frankly, the Democrats should have used some of it because they went, with all the transgender that they were doing and with the men playing in women's sports. Well, if they wouldn't have done that, maybe they would have done better.
Well, so you take me to my question. You're now giving people involved in Project 2025 prominent roles in your administration. Are you changing your mind about Project 2025? No. Is this now the policy blueprint for the second Trump administration?
Some people, if you take a look at the group, it was hundreds of people were involved. And I was actually, I reprimanded the whole group. I said, you shouldn't have placed this document in front of the voters because I have nothing to do with it and I'm the one that's running. You had no right to do this where you put a 1,000-page document in front. And many of those things I disagree with. Now, many of those things I happen to agree with. Many of those things Democrats should have agreed to. And I think they would have done much better in the election because they got slaughtered.
Well, I guess people see the list: Russ Vought, Brendan Carr, Peter Navarro, John Ratcliffe, Pete Hoekstra, Monica Crowley. And they think these are all the people who were involved in or writing Project 2025. This must be a blueprint for work requirements, eliminating the Head Start program, criminalizing pornography. Is that what we can expect to see?
Well, I don't know how they voted. I don't know. I never spoke to them actually about it. And I purposely, and I told you, normally it would be just the opposite. I'd review every page. I purposely didn't even want to see it because when somebody like you asked me a question about Project 2025, I can honestly say I've never seen it. I have nothing to do with it. I didn't read it, but I did hear some things in there that I would totally disagree with. And I said to the people that were really the people behind it, you know who those people are? I said, you really had no right doing this to me because they used it as a soundbite, the Democrats. And I don't know, it couldn't have been too effective because they got slaughtered. But they did use it as a soundbite.
To people who see, oh, he's bringing in all of these people from Project 2025, he must know what it is.
Well,
you know
what? I don't know what it is. No, I don't know what it is.
You still don't know what it is?
But I heard certain things that I didn't like. And by the way, I heard certain things that are phenomenal. Okay?
Like what?
Like law and order. We want law and order. Okay? Little thing like, let's put prisoners in jail. Let's not let people come out and raid every drugstore in Manhattan so that we have to put glass up. And
now, when it comes to YouTube, because they don't pay nobody shit anyway, you got to really, really have a lot of followers and